Hello and welcome back to the Snakebite. It is our weekly sports show that airs every single Wednesday at noon. I'm John Kristovich with James the Flame Simpson, and we are excited to bring you this week's coverage of Moccasin athletics this week. Lots of W's, both the men's and women's basketball team in action, both cross-country teams, the swim teams, everybody is cooking. We'll talk about all that and more. Here is this week's edition of the Snakebite.
Let's start our show by taking a look at our rundown of scores. As you can see, it was a week of chock full of victories for the Moccasins. The men picked up an early week victory on the road last week before both the women and men took down Palm Beach Atlantic this past weekend. The men's and women's swim teams both performed well at the Panther Invitational, and the cross-country teams competed at the South Region Championships with a couple of big individual performances.
James, let's talk first about that men's basketball team, and they are as hot as chestnuts roasting on an open fire. You mentioned they picked up a big win last week in their first road matchup of the year. We saw 𝙏𝙃𝙀 reclaim the Mocs lead with just over a minute to play after the hosts, Clayton State, roared back from a 20-point deficit in the second half. The Mocs were able to hold on for the victory despite the scare as Clayton State missed a game-deciding three-pointer at the buzzer. Danville finished the game with 29 points on 12 for 15 shooting, while Jaden Booth tallied 21 points. He eclipsed the 20 mark for the third consecutive game.
And John, both Booth and Danville have been great this season so far. That men's team followed up that win with another dramatic victory on Saturday night in their first conference matchup of the year against Palm Beach Atlantic. This time it was the Mocs who came back from a double-digit deficit in the second half as they took the lead with about 10 minutes to play. Jaden Booth had a sequence of timely three-pointers to give Florida Southern some breathing room as the game wound down, but the Sailfish stayed close, eventually bringing the game within 1 point with just about a minute to play. Both teams had chances to put the game on ice, but the teams combined for 4 missed field goals and a missed free throw in the final 30 seconds. It's hard to win by 3 straight games by a margin of 2 points or less, but the Mocs have now done it, and they are 4-0 heading into the Terrace Hotel Thanksgiving Classic this weekend.
Yeah, James, and that's pretty exciting stuff. 4 straight wins for the Mocs to open up their season. They've won their last 3 by a combined margin of just 5 points. Well, they will take on Anderson University and Wisconsin Parkside here coming up at the Thanksgiving Classic. The women's team is rolling too, by the way, as they won against PBA as well behind a dominant first quarter performance this past Saturday. Ashley Schell continues to be impressive for the Moccasins as she posted 21 points with 9 rebounds to bolster Florida Southern in their first home bout of the year. The team started the game strong and finished strong, outscoring the Sailfish 47-26 in the outside frames. They eventually won it 78-53. The women played last night at home against Lincoln University of Missouri, and our Carl Van Gelder has the results from that one.
Thank you, guys. The women's Mocs team, they won today 83-69 versus Lincoln University. Started a little slow in the first half, but in the second half really started picking up steam, and a lot of that was thanks to Maria Laurent. She had a great two-way game today, great second half performance, and what really went into that two-way performance, playing great on the defensive end, leading to offensive success?
Well, our coach always says that when things are not going well in offense, we have to focus on defense, and I think that's basically what we did. Our defense started working out better, and that's just how we started making our points in the second half.
You talked about that defensive improvement in the second half. In the second half, you guys forced 15 turnovers. What really went into that defensive success after a little bit of a slow start in the first half?
I think we just wanted to win the game more than they did, and that's why we pressured up more of the ball, and yeah, that's just how we stole more balls and forced the turnovers.
With those forced turnovers, you guys had a lot of success on fast breaks and breakaway scores. What really went into the success there with the passing that maybe wasn't as great in the first half on those fast break opportunities to allow you to capitalize on them in the second half?
I think we definitely played way better as a team in the second half. We just passed the ball more, moved the ball more, and they were tired. We try to use the whole shot clock, so by the end of the shot clock, we already moved the ball a lot, so that was good.
And then one more. You guys are going on a trip to Puerto Rico. It has to be fun over Thanksgiving break. I know you guys have to be excited for that trip. What are you looking most forward to for that?
Yes, we're very excited to especially play over there. It's going to be different for sure. And we're also very excited to go there and get a bit of sightseeing and stuff like that. So we're very excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Back to you guys.
And so that team is now headed to Puerto Rico for their Thanksgiving holiday, as they will take on 2 teams down there before returning to conference play.
Well, the swim teams, they aren't competing in the tropical climate of Puerto Rico, but they sure are swimming like it. In the final big event of the fall season, the women's team earned a huge win at the Panther Invitational hosted by Florida Tech. They edged out Rollins by just 15 points at the 3-day event, also beating Florida Tech and St. Thomas. The men placed second at the event, falling only to St. Thomas University, beating SSC rivals Florida Tech and Rollins in the process. The Mocs accumulated several top times that could qualify individual swimmers for the NCAA championships in the spring, which we'll talk about more in January when the teams return to action.
Yeah, great way to close out their fall season, James. A couple big wins over conference opponents for both the men and the women. Well, let's talk volleyball, which saw their season end this past Friday at the University of Tampa with a loss to Lynn University in the first round of the NCAA regional tournament. Mocs held their own against one of the best teams in the conference and country, but were unable to force a 5th set after falling behind 2-1. Mackenzie Peterman led the way for the Mocs with 15 kills. She was named to the all-conference 3rd team, while Bea Formalon, who notched 16 digs in the loss, was named to the 2nd team all-conference. It's a step in the right direction for FSC, as despite the loss, they sure are proud of their first tournament appearance in the last 5 years. And James, with cross country, they also just went to the regional tournament hosted here in Lakeland. How was that?
Yes, sir, right at Holloway Park. The women placing 9th out of 18, down a couple key players. The men placed 6th out of 18, also down. You know, it's not exactly how you want your season to end, not moving on to that next stage of the Nationals, but they were really satisfied with a couple huge individual performances, especially Emma Musanti and Ellie Fluman on the women's side, both being rewarded all-region, and Alex Guy all-region as well, both in the top 25.
Yeah, good to hear. Strong finish for those 3, especially individually. Well, that does bring it to our Week in Mocs History segment. Today we are looking at November 25th, 2014. Not too long ago, the men's basketball team welcomed in Puerto Rico Bayamon for an early season matchup. Florida Southern defeated the visiting Cowboys from Puerto Rico 99-65 behind 22 points from Kevin Capers and a double-double from Bubby Johnson. And James, that Mocs team would go on to win the national championship that season. They finished the year 36-1. And so now here in 2022, it's the women's basketball team headed to Puerto Rico for Thanksgiving, and the men have a chance to start their season 5-0 for the first time since they won the national championship back in 2015. Well, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, we here at FSC TV do say thank you for tuning in with us here for the Snakebite. I'm John Kristovich with James Simpson saying thank you so much once again. We will see you next Wednesday at noon.